This chat bubble is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook, head over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Hello again, my name is Olivia Grace and I'm back with another chat bubble. Today I'm wondering, why did you pick your class? Now, let me give you a little bit of background to what I'm talking about here. I've played mages for a really long time. I think I played a mage class, oh god, like back in the day, for longer than I care to remember. I've always picked out mage classes from those available. And not, they're not always necessarily called a mage, but they're always that sort of mage type, the magic ranged caster, the sort of zaps from a distance, does heavy damage rather than the sort that are very up close and in melee range. That's just always been my style. And I kind of had a think about this over the weekend, and I find it really interesting. I think with me, this is going to sound quite silly, it kind of stems from this sort of witchy, magic-y superhero obsession thing I had when I was a kid. I always loved the sort of magic side of things. I always enjoyed the idea that was a sort of fun fictional tool to me. I had fun with that. And when I sort of first got into gaming and there was the option to pick classes, I wanted to be the witchy, magey one with the spell book. I'm quite bookish. I'm a bit of a reader. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I'm quite into that sort of thing. So when I first got into playing WoW, I started with a mage. And it makes me think now, looking back at that, whether people who are doing that sort of thing, who are picking classes for a reason, tend to pick the same classes over different games, or whether that's just me. I suspect it's probably not just me, but do you do that? Do you tend to pick up the same classes from game to game as you go? So yeah, in WoW I started with a mage. However, I started on the wrong server because I fail. And I was then picked up by one of the friends who'd got me into the game in the first place. They made me a paladin with the promise that they were strong classes. And I have to say, I didn't really like it that much at first. I didn't really like being up in melee. I didn't really like not being able to be the sort of aloof and distant magic caster class that was able to just melt the faces off things before they got anywhere near you. That was kind of my thing. And I mean, I remember when I was out leveling my paladin, I don't remember exactly where I was, but it's not really relevant. I saw a shaman, and they, in retrospect, knowing what I know now, were probably either a bit high for the zone or over geared or something for the area. I mean, obviously at the time, I didn't actually even know what I was looking at. I was such a new WoW player. I had no clue what I was seeing. But this thing came and dropped these things on the floor and just melted the face off this mob. And I've been trying to kill these mobs for ages, and I was so new, and I was spec holy, which I wouldn't advise it as a paladin leveling spec, put it that way. So then I made one. The very same day I made one, I went and I made a shaman, and I was absolutely loving being elemental. Obviously, it's a little bit different from the sort of archetypal caster mage class, but I was enjoying it. I was enjoying being able to blow stuff up from a distance. It was fun. And then, of course, I got stuck healing in PvP, and the rest is history for my poor shaman. She still has an elemental off spec. So what I'm wondering, and it doesn't have to be about WoW, this is applicable to any game with those similar sort of class archetypes. Do you tend to always play a similar class? And why do you think that you pick the class that you do? And even if you don't always play similar classes, why do you think you pick your classes? I mean, I find it fascinating. And I do have a mage now. She's a fire mage, and I love blowing stuff up with her. And again, on the flip side of that, there's classes I've never liked the idea of as well. And don't take this personally, it's just me being a bit weird. But I've never liked the rogue thief archetype class, the sort of stealth class with the daggers. And I mean, in several games I can think of agility style gear that they sort of come out of the shadows and ambush you. I've always felt like, and this is so silly, I've always felt like that's somehow dishonest and cowardly, particularly if they can slink away into the shadows again. I've always not been okay with that. So there's another example. Tell me about how you pick your classes. Tell me what you think about this, and whether you play similar classes over different games. I'm fascinated to hear your comments on this. Do please leave one in the article below, and as always, keep it locked and dialed to Gamebreaker TV for all your gaming needs.